Okay, class, I've put together this microscopic identification lab. Again, like I said, this is something I'm putting together to do this online because this is not my preference, but maybe this might be able to help you here. Okay, so my microscopic identification lab. Now, the first thing is, I'm coming to this here. When doing a lab test, which we call a lab practical, always look exactly where the arrow is pointing to, for identification. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, let me go here. All right, here's an example of a lab practical exam. First of all, a lab practical exam is one in which you walk around and identify structures. It normally is held in a lab room, and you'll have some slides and some bones and so forth like that. So that's how we do it. I'm sure some of you have already done it, maybe in high school or something like that there. So that's what they call a practical exam. Okay, it's best to do it, obviously, with the real deal in a lab. You can do it online, not the best, at least for me, not the preferable, but it can be done that way. Now, one thing though, with a lab exam, this is kind of a lab practical. When it comes to microscopes, this is what I want you to realize. When the entire picture does not have all the same tissue, you have to look at the pointer. You have to look at what's at the pointer. This is true even in the lab, the face-to-face lab practical. So this is kind of what I'm saying right here. Okay, here would be under the microscope. In this case, it's a photograph, and so we're doing online. So when you say, what type of epithelium is this? Now, this right here is the epithelium. That's something else there. That's not epithelium. So that when they say what type of epithelium, you're naming this here, which is a pseudostratified ciliated columnar. Okay, but anyway, the key is, what is this? Now, let me show you what to compare and contrast. If, for example, the question was, what kind of connective tissue is in this slide? All right, the connective tissue would have been this here, not this here, and this would be just a loose connective tissue. A loose connective tissue. So in other words, the whole slide is not the same tissue. I want you to be familiar with this now. Okay. Now, like this one, let's take one more. What type of epithelium? So in this case, no pointer at all. So then you would say, you'd have to figure out, well, what's the epithelium? It would be this right here. That between there is a connective tissue and blood vessels. So this is epithelium. And that's a simple cuboidal. So my point is that you have to understand what the question is asking in a lab practical. You have to understand what the question is asking. All right. So anyway, all right. Let's go now and look at some different slides of things I want you to be able to identify. Of course, it'll be online this time. Okay, the first thing, I want you to be able to identify the stages of mitosis. Now, the stages of mitosis actually are prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. But I want you to be able to identify interphase and cytokinesis too. So here, and so you can go to, this would be Microscope Lab, and this will be in my PowerPoints. Okay, a new one I'm putting in. All right, so you can walk through and look at all of these particular pictures and figure out what each stage is. Just read through everything. Read through everything. Okay? Read through. For example, right here, prophase. The genetic material is starting to coil, but that's early. Late prophase, it starts to look like chromosomes. See, right now, it's loop domain. Coils to become chromosomes. Then the mitotic apparatus helps it move into the center. Then the mitotic apparatus helps it to pull apart in anaphase. And then here you redo what you did in prophase, put the nuclear membrane, all that stuff back around. And then this is telophase with some cytokinesis. So you can look through all of this. That's what I want you to do so you can understand each stage. Here's my explanation of each stage. Right there. Plus you would have seen this, because these are excerpts that I took directly from my mitosis PowerPoint, So if you go back to the big mitosis PowerPoint in my website, you can see that. So what I'll do is on the lab practical online, I'll put 1 or 2 stages of with no name on it, obviously, 1 or 2 stages, and then I'll say what stage of mitosis is this. So there it is. Okay. All right. Now I go to my histology. And we're going to start first with epithelia. Remember, epithelia lines are covers. All right, right here is simple squamous. See how thin it is? There's the description right there. So if you saw this, that's simple squamous. This actually comes from the lung. That's why I'm saying no slide has all the same tissue. Okay. You've seen this before. That's from the kidney. That's a simple cuboidal. They're as tall as they are wide. Taller than they are wide. Columnar. Nice for absorption. We generally find it in the gastrointestinal tract. Pseudostratified columnar with cilia. So it's a ciliated pseudostratified columnar. Where do you like to find that? In the trachea, in the respiratory system. Because these cilia help move mucus that has dust in them. Pseudostratified means it looks stratified, but all the cells reach the basement membrane. All the cells reach the basement membrane. See, in true stratification, the second row never reaches the basement, third row either. But in this one, it's pseudo because it looks under the microscope when you look, say, well, there's a nucleus, that's stratified. No, it's not. It looks that way. That's why they call it pseudo, because it takes that appearance real quick. Stratified squamous right here. Stratified squamous. Transitional, located in areas that stretch, like the bladder. All right, so those are the epithelia that I want you to be familiar with. All right, now we go to connective tissues I'd like for you to be familiar with. These are the ones, loose, adipose, so forth like that, okay? And you can look back at this. This is loose connective tissue. Loose connective tissue, in a connective tissue, remember you have 3 things: cells, fibers, and amorphous ground substance. Go back to the histology PowerPoint and look at that. So tie this in. Lab is an additional thing to the didactic portion of this course. So don't just do this and not go back and study but connective tissue has cells, fibers, and AGS, amorphous ground substance. See, loose means it's not that many fibers. Okay. Here is adipose. These are fat cells storing triglycerides. I want you to know that one. Right here are these dark staining or reticular. Reticular fibers are very delicate fibers. Very delicate. This is a stain on them to show you. This is dense tissue. See, it has a lot of fibers. Now, these fibers are all going in the same direction. That's why they call it dense regular. They're all going in the same what? Direction. Right here, the fibers are dense. It's a bunch of them, but they're going in different directions. So that's why they call it dense irregular. Okay. This is elastic. These are elastic fibers here. Okay. Here is bone. And what I want you to be able to understand, go back to the bone section at PowerPoint. I want you to understand each of these is an osteon. So if I had a slide, had something that said, what is this whole structure? You'd say an osteon. This is the central canal, also called the eversion canal. Right here in this little area, these were lacunae. The little wiggly stuff are canaliculi. Now, why they are like that, go back to the bone thing and find out what's inside. I may even ask you that. What's in a lacunae? So you want to go back and tie this in with the didactic part of the course. Right here is interstitial lamellae. These are concentric lamellae. Interstitial lamellae, concentric lamellae. Okay. This would be a Volkmann's canal right there. So go back to the bone one, and it gives a good explanation in my bone video and my bone PowerPoint. Okay. This is an example of the various cartilages. There are three kinds of cartilage: hyaline, elastic, and fibro. Hyaline cartilage has this smooth, creamy, it's got a lot of amorphous ground substance. Elastic cartilage has a lot of elastic fibers. It has a tremendous amount of elasticity. This is the most abundant by far, or you can read on it. Then this is fibrocartilage. It could be in your intervertebral disc, but it also is in your nasal septum. Not the bony nasal septum, but wiggle your nose a little bit. That's fibrocartilage. Okay. Now we go to the muscle types: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. Okay, let's look at those. Skeletal muscle is striated. Go back to the muscle section because the myofilaments are in a myofibril arrangement. Cardiac muscle is also striated. That's the fiber there. Okay. Cardiac muscle also has these things called the intercalated disc. Look back at what I'm talking about. That's these junctions. Those are called intercalated disc. So if I show us a slide with no name on it, you'd say this is skeletal, that's cardiac. Smooth muscle, you can see, has no stripes in it at all. This has little stripes in it. This would be like in your intestine and so forth. Okay. And the last is to be able to identify a neuron. Primarily in that, I would ask you to name the parts: dendrites, cell body, axon. Go back to your neuron section of the nervous system. All right. So that gives a quick run through on the microscope lab. But I go back one more time and say this. We pull it up again. Go back and pull it up again. That you don't have the same thing throughout the whole slide. All right, thank you.